voted against him. And those are like loyal APC members. So I'm like, wait a minute. This is like clearly like the supposed godfathers don't really have like much of a grip on what's happening at the very, very local level. I mean, they'll get some people who like them. So some people older ladies and they're like, fine.
Exactly, you're saying, okay, we've done, and that's what we're going to talk about. So yeah, so she was taking like the sort of, but then so yeah, as though like not open a good there.
I always thought he was one of these guys who was like kind of dressed in a local garb, fundamentally like, because he was speaking so fluently.
Yes, yes. People learn from their own experience.
Yeah.
It's always like that. It depends on the momentum. You will build to a state that people will say, who accused this person?
Yeah.
They will go and present a different dead body.
Yeah. It happens now.
And then are you like, then what do people want then? Like, that doesn't actually necessarily make it easier to radicalize them, right? It's actually just you're living in a social group, you're just in a...
I'm just saying, like, you guys don't freak out if it happens. No, just whatever. It happens sometimes. But anyway, I was gonna say, like, you guys some Palmwine. But I was saying, what would be nice is if the event is like cozy and stuff. Then we can like interpret it and show as further evidence of the backwardness of the people politically. And maybe the first show could be like letting people. Yes. Totally. So it's just like the issues that arise when you want to do a political event and then we just talk about it.
Exactly where I feel like
Okay.
the end of the event, we're going to have a kind of discussion session. It will be opened up by Tavi Principal, who is extremely experienced in TV and in various media forums, and will do a much better job at actually being in front of people and saying coherent things than me. And then she'll pass off to Kunle Wiseman Ajayi, who's an activist, who's been in the student movement for decades, and who was on the streets fighting for the rights for electricity for community somewhere in Lagos, and you'll say some more about that. And the point of this really is first of all to show that these sorts of things are happening, and then secondly to bring it home. These sorts of things are happening in other parts of the world as well, where 29-year-old, without corporate funding, without Godfather, just won a seat as a House of Representatives member in New York. Okay, so I won't say very much more. I'll let the movie talk, and then we'll talk some more at the end. Thank you very much. I'm a PhD student at the Department for International Development at the University of Oxford. I study Nigerian politics. Kunle Wiseman Ajayi is like a couple of decades-long student activist who's moved into labor and union activism, who's also now moved into civil society and youth activism, and today was involved in protests. He's involved in several protest movements, and any socialist organization in Nigeria he's involved in it. And today he was part of protests with the community in Lagos, and several communities in Lagos he's been working with to help improve electricity rights. This is Tavi Principal, who's done a number of very interesting initiatives in and around Nigeria and beyond, including running a very successful TV show on channels for a period, and she's now working with the Lagos State government. All of us and a few other people in the room have partnered together to run a radio show, which is a mixed pidgin English and the Queen's English, lekki English radio show podcast. And this is our first event. We're keeping it informal. We want to have a discussion. We want to hear your views. So over to you, Tavia, to coordinate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, so like Saeed said, I'm just going to do this very, very informally. So feel free to jump in with any comments or even a question, or observation or something that came to your mind when you were watching the movie and all that. So the first thing to me that really came up was obviously, would this be possible in Nigeria? And for those who think not, why? And I think more generally, can outsiders make it into Nigerian politics in the first place? Like so obviously we saw her go through the whole process from primaries to the actual election. But do outsiders even make it into that first stage in Nigeria, and why don't they? Like, your experience, how does it get? What would you say?
Yes, first, I'm Kunle Wiseman Ajayi. I want to say that probably like Alexandra, I'm a bit nervous. But why I'm saying this is because watching that movie, anybody who understands the Nigerian political space here will first look at two things. One, the political system and the opportunities. One of the big revelations that the documentary was able to show to us is that unlike the way Nigerians see United States of America, it is not. So we start from that. There have been several illusions created in the minds of an average Nigerian. We have that illusion that everything here has no opportunity. We cannot contest and meet up with the ruling class. There are so many things that we have that are established even constitutionally that we do not have any leeway into. So there is this issue of the Nigerian political system largely massively underdeveloped. And because of that, most of citizens understand the system for whatever it is. We can see it that she wants to contest. She could come from outside, enter into the space, try to come in, can walk into people's houses. There was no iota of violence against her by the opposition, though there was psychological violence. There was the fact that the establishment too also tried to stop her. You get it? So the developed system there, politically, too, got defeated. Why the Nigerian political system have a lot of loopholes? For instance, there are small parties in Nigeria today that we can lean on and fight like this. But if you look at everything all around, you know that one, the system in the United States is developed, that of Nigeria is largely underdeveloped. Two, there are more opportunities right there. There are also opportunities here. But we do not understand our own political system, just like they do there. But I think those are objective conditions. Subjectively, you also see that it is not Alexandria that won the election. Of the 4 contestants that contested, she's the main person, you get it, that did not see the election as her personal ambition. To be fair to others too, you get it, they also have a lot of individuals' political strengths. You get it? But if you look at it, she is a working class person. She's been involved in unionism. She's been hardworking. She can stay for a long time. Others too also have that too. But if you look at her ideologically too, she's used to a movement. It is the younger brother that nominated her. And you could see seriously that she was able to work very strongly within the confines of a movement. So this can happen in Nigeria. And at this last election it happened. I know of a candidate of the Social Democratic Party in Ondo State. People know him as Young Alaji, who contested and won. 2 things help when you win, objectively and subjectively. Objectively, there is a crisis within the Nigerian ruling class. After the elections, there was no jubilation, as you can see. After that same election, the ruling class have not survived the political crisis. You get it? What it means is that if you build as a movement, you get it? We can get there. But the Nigerian movement will have times 10 of the jobs that was done in the United States to do here.
So another thing that I found really interesting is because you mentioned working class people and building a movement, and the sorts of people that usually get involved in politics anyway in Nigeria. So many of our politicians in Nigeria, if you look at their background, they are actually working class from where they come from. As you forget who they are now, where they were born.
Yes.
Jonathan famously told us, he wore no shoes. All of them have a background story that says that, they struggled, they were, they struggled to educate themselves, to do this, to do that. And the interesting thing is, so you find that despite growing up in poverty, so many of the candidates in this story also gave their background story, what also motivated them to want to go into office and all that. So anyway, despite people hear their background story, when they do get into office, they don't pursue any kind of policy that is really pro people or pro the sorts of people that they left behind, So what do you think about, what do you think accounts for that? Why is it that working class people in America, for example, will get to Congress and want to pursue, they're talking about Medicare for all, so healthcare for all, no matter your status, your what do you call it, how wealthy you are or not, you should have healthcare. But why is it in Nigeria that despite being working class, you get to whatever office and not really do much for poor people or for working class people?
Yes, I will give you just two short answers. One is that it is actually not true that even those who came from the working class in the US, Obama came from a working class family. He threw bombs almost every day as US president, according to statistics. You get it? He got down like Libya, did loads of things.
But that's foreign policy though. So you can kind of argue that he's not necessarily there to protect, foreigners or those people. He's there for his own peace.
But it's also
he's working for
many
American
of those things,
interests.
many of those things too also helped the survival of the ruling class in America.
True.
Imperialism helps the ruling class in America to survive.
True, but
if you look at Obama,
but he's not. To be fair, he's not.
If you look at Obama,
he never said he was the radical. He's pursuing, the typical textbook. He's a Democrat. He's a center-left sort of person. So I don't know if that's really the example. But what I'm trying to say is, why is it that America? So you could say, okay, to be fair to Obama, to play devil's advocate a bit. He did give them the most comprehensive healthcare,
primary healthcare
so far.
No, what I wanted to get through to with Obama is also that if you look at Crowley too, he used to be a local champion. There were two parts that Alexandria touched. If you look at the public layer where Alexandria had discussed with a lot of people, she's homegrown. When Crowley was meeting people opposite, almost close to where Alexandra is, he met his own childhood friends. And what did he say? He said, it's been a long time that we have seen. One of them said it there that, oh, you are back home now after several years. You understand what I'm saying? Which means he also grew from that background too. What I'm trying to say in essence is that.
But he's rich though.
He's now rich.
No, he's always been. Came from an
but at least he came from that background to where he has his friends. He still knows all of them. What I'm saying in essence is that you can have people growing from the depth of Ajegunle with real suffering. You get it? What you have, Konji suffering. You know that kind of suffering we Nigeria gets. Yet you will still see people who grow up from that kind of Ajegunle. If you bring 7 of them to a game, you will still discover that there are some of them that really enjoy not just the suffering, but that some people have to suffer. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that so many times it's not about being working class. It's not about growing from the working class. If you check histories of a lot of revolutionaries ever, most of them were not really deep from the working class.
And were they kind of lucky people that you see today?
Yeah, no, continue.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you said that it appears as though the person doesn't have to be from a working class background to pursue working class.
Yes, Marx was not from the working class.
But can you have a person from Lekki, a place where people don't vote, in regular elections, a place where when political events happen, people are absent because they're doing yoga or they're at the mall? Can you have somebody from that kind of political context or social context actually ever have it in their mind to represent working class issues? Or will they only ever see, poor people as a kind of social burden? Something that you avoid on the way on traffic, something that you wish was cleared away from your view, right?
Now, there's something they call class suicide. Fela Anikulapo Kuti never came from a poor family. He stood on the side of the poor people all through his life. His mother was probably the most influential woman to ever come of Africa. She was, at a point in time, the unofficial ambassador to Eastern Europe from Nigeria here. In fact, there's a recent video that came up that she took Nigerian kings, Yoruba kings, to meet British heads. And if you watch that video very well, she was talking to the British heads as if they are friends. But the kings were busy kneeling down and all of that, you know, they were bowing, which means that it was their first experience. Do you understand? I really think it's not about the growing up. I grew up from a middle class family. In our street, at a point, I remember Nigeria 1996. My father was the one who showed Nigeria 1996 on our streets. So what he did was to bring our small television, you know, the white and black, pasted the color television kind of, you know, the nylon, you get it on it, and brought it outside, and everybody watched it. You know, they bought beer and all of that. But you look at the kind of training we get from childhood. My own grandfather was also from their whole friendship and all of that. My father would always say, never allow cheating. He chose to go away from getting too rich and all of that. But there were some of his friends that they grew up from that same middle class background that are today oppressors. So it's really not just about this man is from a poor family and he will definitely go to defend the poor. This one is from a rich family. No, he will end up being an ajepota. No. You get it? So if you look at, Soyinka talked about something recently that Fela's father decided not to take his children to big schools because he felt that those ones is ajebota. You get it? You know, Soyinka said he was the one who coined that word. This one is ajebota. You have to stay where the working people are. You understand? I think it's really about human feelings. If you look at this from the beginning, those who grew up to become capitalists, go and check the history of Adam Smith. He doesn't mean that he was from a very rich family. Marx was from a well-to-do family. His father was more of like a lawyer. You get it? Frederick Engels actually managed one of the biggest companies in Manchester all through his life. And it was from that experience that he wrote the conditions of the working class in England. You get what I'm saying? And why is it that a boss is writing about the condition, you get it, of the working class? There could be class suicide. But what is probable is that most people who grew up, who understand the feelings, you get it, who understood suffering, like Alexandra is talking about, you get it, are the ones who grew up to defend the poor people. But there's one advantage. If somebody grows from a middle class family and becomes an activist revolutionary, I've met several activists. Those ones are usually more calm, you get it, than those who grew from a poor family. Because those ones get angrier. You get it? And if you look at one of the differences of all the 4 persons that contested here, the most jovial, the most comic of all of them was Alexandra herself. She wasn't angry. She could be dramatic if you watch it, but she was not angry. And it's also about fighting. Anybody who have been into the ring before will understand that anger does not win a battle. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I feel, that you can grow up from a rich family and still stand with the masses. So it doesn't matter.
Definitely, I agree. So anyone wants to, make a comment or say something?
I want to add something, and that's...
They don't vote me actually. The number of them voted that person, but majority just collected the money, and rather than voting against me, they actually didn't vote. So for the first time in the history of the local government, where the least anybody had gotten to win an election, there was 68,000 votes. So 2019 we got another thing, the winner won with 20,000 votes, and it bought the whole of December at least over 98% of 20,000 votes were paid for that. Now, what I'm trying to bring out from that experience is that for people to have taken that decision, that even though we're collecting money, or we're not going to vote for you, though we know we can't come out to vote for another person. So it shows that if those people eventually get motivated, like political scientists will always tell you that every man has a price. So maybe I wasn't able to actually get what is really their price. It wasn't that 3,000 naira. Because if that 3,000 naira was actually their price, they would have voted it.
Exactly.
So it means that our people have started thinking and they are saying things from the direction. But the thing is just that we've not just been able to get that point, that will make them stand up and say, see, money, not taking, and what we're interested in is our future. It's almost like without money, there is no life. So, and that was how we got up. That has been our thinking, whether consciously or unconsciously, because of the music we listen to, what our parents play, and you see that, okay, like this, someone who does not have money has no life. Those words, you may think they are nothing, but they are sinking into our heads, and one way it reflects and it manifests in the way, we live our life. So that's why the ruling elites, they've seen that the only thing you can do is to keep the people hungry, and then stylishly fit them, where at that point, if you look at psychology, there's something we call id versus Freud talked about id, ego, and superego. Now that id is like the pleasure principle. You understand? So we're talking about someone who is hungry, or we look at the issue of motivation by mass people. Someone who is hungry, that person has all, and you just come to the person and say, see, this 500 naira. Use it to eat. And somebody is coming to tell the person that, say, if you are steadfast, if you are upright, just do it. And you're like, are you mad? So at the end of the day, let me just quickly sum up so that I don't waste our time. It's like, what happened with Alexandra can actually happen in Nigeria. But he said something earlier, just like what young Alaji did. I think it's in your state.
Ondo State.
Ondo State, yeah. I told you the day I saw him, I said, see, they are very lucky. They are very lucky that that thing actually worked. But he said something to me. He said, I've been working for so many years, different programs, through NGOs. He said, I've done a lot in that area. I said, see, I've been doing it too. I had positive action initiatives. I've been working with drug addicts and some other things like that. But at the end of the day, things didn't actually work out for me the way it worked out for me. But the thing is, our societies are different. They have their popularity. But what's most important is we have to change our reputation. And that's everything you see here belongs to them. So the way you want to achieve your home, that's now your belongings. It's the same way you keep that society. So we need to start from a different generation. Unfortunately, I've lost hope in my own generation, and those after me. I only see myself. So I think that's true. That's very realistic.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to sit in a very hot manner when I listened to your first discussion, Jonathan. Why? Because I have the honor of being the General Secretary of the United Action for Democracy, which is the umbrella body of all civil rights societies in Nigeria. And the CDHR is a very large affiliate of the UAD. But I can also tell you that you even got into the CDHR without a background of activism. Like I think he has, as a student activist and all of that. At the period you got in, showed the rot that had been, that had been in CDHR. You understand? As a student activist, I helped to unite CDHR campus branches when James Ogunjimi, who was in the CDHR in Ogun State, was leading. And that was when we were trying to create the coalition of left and progressive students in Ife then, and then all over the country. The issue is this. it's going to be another discussion entirely to trace the history of civil society in Nigeria, the history of ideological groups in Nigeria, the history of revolutionary groups in Nigeria. But I can tell you something, that I told somebody that we are in a period where the revolution is shedding its wings. Those who are burdens to it, they are going down. Many organizations are not going to survive the momentum we are in. Why? Because many of them have outstayed their usefulness. Organization is taken from organism. It has a beginning and a death. It can be subjected to what you call Mr. Niger D. The mistake most revolutionaries make is that when they build an organization to a point and it does not work, the best thing is to kill it. A very classical example was done by Karl Marx and Engels themselves. The first international was built to a point and it has to be dropped. Because the time CDHR became popular was during the military regime in Nigeria. And there is a department in the Nigerian Department of State Security that is created to falter many of these organizations, including the National Association of Nigerian Students.
Okay, sorry, let me just, so because not everyone here is necessarily so familiar with, organizing and all, let's try and make it a bit more
simpler.
General.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I want
to say, going into the,
I'm only trying to. Yes, I'm only trying to.
How about the question he raised?
Yes, I will answer that. What I'm trying to say is that the CDHR is no more that human rights organization that we have. That is why you have Sega Links growing, you have Yemi Fashikwe growing, you have a lot of organizations. What we need to do.
issue Alexandra was facing now. So how do you think we can relate that to Nigeria?
Yes, let me.
My boss will still call me and say, are you working for them or you're working for me?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That aside the CDHR, aside the CDHR, there are organizations today that fight in defense of human rights. But the goal should not be defending human rights. The goal should be making humans to fight for themselves. What we should look at is the self-emancipation of the working people themselves. You get to remember what Bob Marley said. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. You get it? Only by yourself. And for what you have said, I'm really happy that you gave that example. In Oshodi too, which is close to Mushin too, I have the example of Ibuowo, who had been contesting there. And the last time he wanted to contest for the chairmanship, there was a standing order from Bondilo to make sure that he does not contest. Because they know that they would lose. The thing is this, you never can know the method that will take you there. If we study the 4 persons that contested, there were factors that made this lose, that made this win. It does not mean that they will lose. What I'm saying that in Nigeria today, that the ruling class in Nigeria today are winning does not mean that they are really winning. They are only postponing the evil day. What we need to do is to count the scores. And what do I mean? Let's look at it. We lost. What have we not done? How do we keep on? You get it? And then we also need to look at the kind of parties with which you contest. One of the things, if you look at where, especially Paula Jean, when she lost, there was the position that she should have contested as an independent. And I feel that same way too. The Democratic Party is a party that carries a lot of burdens itself. That Alexandra won does not mean that she's better than the 4 of them. There are several factors. You understand? So in Nigeria today, we need to look at the kind of party. It's not going to be easy for us to go into APC and PDP and think that we can emerge like Alexandra.
Fair enough.
You get
But
that?
there was something that you said, yeah? No, I wanted to ask, I wanted to quickly ask Siraj, because you said, so two things that on paper kind of seem like a contradiction, but at the same time it's like you're going, so on one hand you said, so, people are starting to think about things differently and they're not just taking the money and voting for whoever. But at the same time you're saying you've completely given up. And but then you went back and said, or maybe there was something you didn't offer in terms of motivation. So so now, like after all this has ended, what do you think that extra something that could have motivated them to maybe take the 3,000 but still vote for you or for whoever, like you, what do you think that could have been, or what could it be in future?
Well, let me just say, this is what I feel. There is still fear within them. And that fear, I'm still trying to look at a way to point the fire.
I have the answer.
So fear of what exactly? Like say exactly what do you think it is?
Don't forget that the ruling class, presently in Nigeria, they have the monopoly of violence. Now, let me be very honest now. But during the local government election, it was so clear that they were not going to win. And we were already seeing
media. I took pains to explain to people that selling NPC is bad. Or somebody that said, somebody that put release statements on violence in the country is bad. Like, people don't really understand the core problems. So their resistance is low, or the apathy is still very high. Not lack of belief in the system is still very high because the consciousness is very low. So what the ruling class does is this. They pump, for example, Mugabe spent over 5 billion naira in the last election, with 500 million naira, according to reports, with 500 million naira on social media. But we had left candidates like him, I can call him the left candidate, you understand, like Shorekis and the guy you mentioned. But they didn't have sway in the media. When we got to my village, we asked about the biggest debate. That's the candidate
the big debate.
Kadaria, the big debate. Not the big debate, that one was for TVC.
Okay.
The debate, the candidates.
The candidates, okay.
Yeah. Do you know that everybody in our world, educated, informal workers, professional workers, students, did not watch that debate? So that's another type of survivalism. They didn't have access to TV, they didn't have access to electricity. So now for you to raise the consciousness of the masses, you can't have an Alexandra where in Nigeria where just because in the US there's more access to media and there's more access to left media. And the consciousness was very high, so much that she had a lot of volunteers. And she got the same platform the oppositions were getting. The NTS will come to our speech. The NTS didn't come to ours. The only time they came to ours, we know it was coincidental. You understand? So we didn't have the media to raise the consciousness. Now, we need to take a Palmwine socialist to the ghettos, to the markets, so that we can raise this consciousness up, so people will understand why they are voting, what they are voting for. Because we can't share the same power with the ruling class when it comes to violence. They have all the state force apparatus to oppress us. So the thing is, many Nigerians are actually ready for change. They are actually ready to follow the person that is right. But they can't even identify who is right. They don't even know the history of the candidates. You understand? And we were handicapped. So if we have to really think of how do we fight the propaganda machine with left media influencer.
I was working with this metric, and the metric would show you, based on the number of followers a certain candidate has, based on their general reach, how successful their posts on social media. Right? And Sori was the most successful on social media because basically on the metrics I was looking at, Sori's posts were the most effective on social media relative to his social media presence, right? But so that was in one way that he was actually doing far better than any other candidate in the election. But it ultimately also, so then I thought at one point, wow, this might mean he might get more votes than I think he does, because on social media he has a lot more engagement. But actually, when it came down to it, it didn't really work out that way. So actually, what I think it shows about a lot of things to do with the media is actually, candidates look at the media as, oh, if people can see me on the media, that means that they will hear my message, and then that means they might vote for me. But actually, candidates, not in Nigeria, around the world, in the UK, everywhere, politics is too often in the establishment about the individual that wants to win, and then how can you package that individual to look like the people, to make the people in that place feel like they're for them. So maybe actually we need to think of it in the reverse. So, and I don't know you personally, so I don't mean to be disparaging of the guy who is running. But maybe the answer to your campaign is it's not
you trying to save the people. It's the people themselves. When after election come and say, well, the results are out, this is it, this is how the voters are, but we can still do better. So we need to make the people themselves own the process of the struggle. We need to make them own the fact that the next person that represents you must be somebody that believes in your own ideals.
And answers to you.
Yes, it is when people believes and owns that struggle, you get it, that you can get to that place. And so why they are doing that, we must start building from now.
Okay, but I want to ask.
Well, sorry, we're going to have to
round up.
Yeah, so keep it very,
Very short. Okay, how can someone who is coming out, who is new, who is vying for a post, how does he reach the normal masses? Which, like an
So
example.
can I just say, I've done, not to run an election, not to run for a campaign, but just to do simple research.
Okay.
I find this question of how do you reach the normal masses to be one of, no offense, to be one of the most ridiculous questions you can ask in Nigeria. My brother, the opposite is more perplexed. Can you go around in Nigeria without interacting with the normal masses? It's impossible. The opposite is impossible. Everywhere you go on a given day in Nigeria, you interact with normal Nigerians. You interact with the ordinary masses. So for my research, I had to collect numbers to do a survey. I had to collect numbers of ordinary people who are attending meetings to do survey so that they can answer questions that I used for my research. I just said that. I attended a political meeting, I attended an APC meeting in Ado Ekiti State, I attended a PDP meeting in Ado Ekiti State. I said I'm a student doing PhD research. Please, if you're interested in participating in research as a member of this, doesn't matter whether you went to school, whatever, just write your number, we'll call you. Hundreds of people wrote their numbers on a sheet of paper that I brought myself. I lined the paper, said name, number, address. Hundreds of people put their numbers there. So if you tell me that you can't access the working class, how do we go about it? Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
an angle.
Sorry. I want to sort of finalize on a slightly less polemic note. Sorry, one moment. So we have to wrap up in part because the people who are hosting us here are leaving.
They can leave us here, we don't mind.
We're just cleaning up so that
they can leave us here, we don't mind.
But the conversation doesn't need to end here. Sorry, a couple of things. The conversation doesn't need to end here. So there are two ways in which we can continue this conversation. And then I'll say one more thing about who we are and what this stands for and what I think we can take out of today. And then I think we can leave after that. One way in which we can continue this conversation is by, there's a book going around, it's right by Kunle now. If you're interested in continuing to have these discussions that are action-oriented, but yet are done in a light-hearted manner, we have one or two entertainments, one or two soft drinks or whatever. Palmwine will feature all the time. Please add your name to the list and we'll continue this conversation. The second way is that, sorry my brother, you just arrived, I'll bring you in afterwards. The second way is some of us might end up somewhere else after this for maybe one or two beers, maybe one, maybe two. If you still got some time, if you still got some time, come for a sort of informal after party. Okay, let me say one more note. Thank you very much to all the folks who have helped organize this. Thank you so much, Michael and Tunde. Thank you for all the behind-the-scenes work from Camille, Fleming, aka Wifey. Thank you, thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Tabia. Thank you, Kuliwazan Tajai. Thank you to the comrades who came all the way from Joram, Mushin, all these heavy names. And okay, thank you, Bolaji, for
thanks, everyone. Just came even though it was late.
Thanks for coming.
Not a solidarity statement for the Socialist Party of Nigeria.
Fantastic.
We are currently on the ballot paper, and the question of putting forward socialism at the time when socialism itself ought to be ambassadized and world is a challenge for all of us. So first of all, I want to apologize for coming very late. And I will have loved to be part of the coalition. As I said, the coalition continues. But the major issue is that it's quite interesting to see young people again be engaging the phenomenon of socialism and the alternative it poses for the crisis or the nightmare of capitalism that we are all I'm sorry for coming late. But I think next time we'll have a more robust discussion about exactly the role we ought to play in the events bound to break out in the coming period.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And the Socialist Party of Nigeria is a party that we respect and that we want to feature in all of our conversations going forward. So once again, this has been brought to you by
Yoga Spa.
Thank you so much, Michael. And also Champagne Social, Palmwine. So from Palmwine, we go transition to Champagne Social. That bridge has been broken since the days of Fela and Anikulapo Kuti, whose name comes up every time you do a gathering. Artists used to participate in radical struggle used to participate in art, used to participate in intellectual life. Those were interwoven. Nowadays, somehow the 3rd Millennium Bridge has separated those two people, right? So the point is to try to see how we can link those activities going around, all around the city, all around the country, right? So that's why this group of people, Champagne Socialists or Palmwine Socialists, have sprung up. They're the kind of people who might drink champagne or palm wine, but they're also involved in socialist activism and take it seriously when it occurs in New York or when it occurs in Lagos. And that's what we'll try to highlight today. So we exist for this purpose, and please, let's continue to exist and let's continue to support each other's organization. And I think we'll leave it at that.
Please time for pictures.